Thank you. Welcome to the town board meeting. Please rise and salute the flag.
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Emergency exits are behind the town attorney and also the door you came in. Roll, please.
Supervisor Purdy?
Here.
Councilpersons Doyle? Here. Gutierrez?
Here.
Robillard?
Yes, here.
And let the record reflect that Councilman Blackman will be absent this evening.
Okay, the first item on the agenda is the Uncharted presentation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica. I'm the founder and CEO of Uncharted, and I'm here with several members of my team, here and here.
You can introduce your team if you'd like.
May I?
Yes.
You guys can each stand up and say your names.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Nick Navarro, and really excited to be here in Amenia. I'm our Chief Community Officer, so I work with a lot of our community partners, different nonprofits we work with here in New York, as well as our investor community and our technical advisors and tech team that's all across the state and the nation.
Hello everyone, I'm Deanna Kowalson. I am the City Program Manager for Uncharted. I have also worked for them as an engineer in the past, mechanical engineering, and at this point in time I manage our ecosystem of partners to help product and service success across the board.
Good evening, my name is George Kronk. I'm with Uncharted, and I'm a civil engineer and part of the support team. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Bianca. Thank you. I'm new to the team. I'm the executive coordinator in the office of CEO. I support Jessica and the rest of the Uncharted team. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys so much for having us. Really impressed with the Amenia TV setup. It's kind of cool. We first reached out to Amenia and are ultimately here because we believe that we have this once-in-a-generation opportunity to make sure that municipalities in the area where, I guess to be biased, where I'm from, I was born at Vassar Hospital. I'm from Poughkeepsie, and I'm very much connected to the Hudson Valley area. And I think that we have this once-in-a-generation opportunity to make sure that all of these funds that are flowing from the federal government, from the infrastructure bill, from the Inflation Reduction Act, to make sure that we get our fair share so that we can get some things done. And so we went and looked at all of the municipalities that would qualify as environmental justice areas or environmental justice communities in this region because of the federal government's Justice 40 initiative, which basically says that if you qualify as an environmental justice area and or community, just depends on what website you're looking at, we will essentially target 40% of federal investments and federal funds towards those communities. If you, one, know that you are one, and then two, kind of know the steps to get those funds. And so when we got connected to Supervisor Perotti, she said, no, I didn't even know we were one. And we said, well, not only are you one, but when you're specifically looking at some of the critical water infrastructure that you guys have planned, there are some things that you can do to make sure that that is approved and that you get that money. And when you get it, you would have an outsized chance of getting it because of your designation. We went ahead and reviewed the IUP that they had submitted, and it scored a 40. The issue with that is that the EFC, which is the state level kind of funding, distributing body for the water grant funds, they've currently placed their funding kind of level at 85. So if your project doesn't hit a score of 85, you're likely not going to get that funding. So we're here because we think we can help. Like, before I go into a bit more about who we are and all of that, we're here because we believe that we can help get that score up from a 40 to an 85. It's a tight deadline. We have to get all of this done by March 1st to make sure that that funding comes through. But the cool part is that once we do that and once we're organized, now we're also in a great position to go and get more federal money. And we did some research for the supervisor as well, and we're like, we see millions of dollars of grant funding that we can help get to Amenia. And that's kind of why we're here, to be honest. Like, that is ultimately the goal and what gets us going and gets us excited, because this is not going to be happening forever and ever and ever. So that's why we're here. A little bit about who we are. You can take a look at the slides right behind you. If you go to the next slide. Great. So we'll go over kind of three buckets for this presentation. Quick introduction on Uncharted. Then we'll highlight a case study very quickly in terms of the work that we've done for the city of Poughkeepsie. And then we'll go through our proposal for the town of Amenia. So you can go to the next slide. Our mission ultimately is to raise the public standard of living for everyone, not just for some. And again, we see that this funding flowing down from the federal and state level is one of the ways that that can happen. We're also a certified MWBE, and I guess somewhat Googleable, as all those other links really mean. You can keep going. When it comes to partnering with municipalities, we really have kind of like a three-pillared approach. First is development services, second is data services, and third is community engagement. Development services, ultimately, we're talking about the full kind of lifeline of everything that goes into infrastructure, from grant services to also supporting in pretty much anything related to infrastructure planning, development, management, monitoring. We built a brilliant, experienced ecosystem of companies and firms that have just a proven experience to get this done. And so specifically today, we're going to be talking about grant services. The second part of it is the data services. And the idea ultimately that we see is part of what most municipal staff, public administrators need is just tools to help make their job a little bit easier. And so what we've developed is kind of like a search engine or Google for municipal government. So when you're doing all of these infrastructure projects, whether it's the grant work or if you're launching infrastructure planning or anything, and you have to pull all this information, or let's say something breaks and the person who knows where the map is retired 3 years ago, and so now you have to go and find that guy, that whole process, that's a lot, right? And so our platform is all about supporting with succession planning. It centralizes all the information in one place, and it doesn't give you 1,000 dashboards. You don't need any training to use it. It's just something that makes it easier to have the information you need when you need it while you're going through the process. And then the third part is community engagement. We'll get more into that, but we believe that at the core, the way that anything that's done in infrastructure, anything that's done in technology, and also in understanding what you all have to do in engaging with your citizens and your constituents, it comes down to having empathy and respect for the community and listening to them. And so it's a big part of how we work. So first, as I said, development services. Our team, specifically from the grant writing perspective, supervisor was very, very intentional and specific. She said, I'll give you a shot on this. So we're talking about grant services, and that's all we're going to talk about, and there's no problem with that. So, well, we have a lot of experience in this. Our team has secured over $100 million in grants in New York State for New York municipalities. 30+ years of grant writing experience. Obviously, you can guess that the grant writer is not me, given that I am 34 years old, though wouldn't that be cool if it was. And not only that, but, and maybe you've seen this with some of the grants, but we know we have the right relationships to make sure things get done on the state level and on the federal level. We've secured state level endorsements for projects for municipalities. This is part of what is necessary, and this is what we want to bring Amenia. And again, the appropriate track record. We also have some experience in helping municipalities get reimbursements for our grant services. So there's a little bit that goes into it, but it's kind of a full cycle offering of expertise. If you go to the next slide, as I mentioned, data services. Here are some screenshots of this, and there's a video that will show you kind of how it works in real time, but the core idea of it is we believe in long-term partnership. We believe in kind of growing with a municipality, and this is something that you can have in your back pocket. So first, it's just having the engineering reports, being in there and making it searchable and accessible, and something that anyone who's supposed to can go in there and just type something in and get the information you need. If you keep going, if you go back actually, yes. Are you able to click on that video here?
Okay. You see how it works out.
Huzzah, look at that, okay. All right. So this is an example of the interface, right? So everyone who's supposed to would get a login. The interface simply says, I want to know. And you could type in something like, how many parking meters do we have? Where did we install the EV charging system? Where are our water meters? And you would get information just popping right out in front of you, a map, all of those things. That's the value of the platform. And again, it kind of just grows with you. So it's just a tool as you're going through all of your grant work. It also helps us actually do the grant work a little bit faster, better, more efficiently. It's a tool to centralize the information that's critical throughout this process and make it accessible to all the stakeholders necessary so that they're not spending so much time searching for basic details. And when we get into the case study, I'll show you a bit more of how we use this for the city of Poughkeepsie. So if you go to the next slide. And then from a community engagement perspective, there's really two ways that we do this. Again, it's part of holistically and everything that we offer. The first is Uplift. And this is a really awesome program that actually has been statistically proven to increase the creative confidence in students. It's an educational program that we do in partnership with nonprofits and also sometimes with the school district, where we teach the kids how to look at everything going on in their community and not see it as being an obstacle but an opportunity. And then we teach them how to prototype and how to see themselves as inventors and come up with different ways of thinking about solutions. And sometimes we even do an inventor showcase and all of these different things. And it's a really cool way to make the kids feel like they're part of the conversation and also part of the vision and the dream of their community. And then we also do a lot of work to make sure that those voices, the things that y'all are even working on in real time, as you want them to kind of be elevated, to actually bring that to the public sphere. And so we have quite a bit of experience and success in bringing these success stories from municipalities to platforms like Bloomberg, New York Times, obviously the local newspapers as well. And again, just recognizing that's part of the growth of the municipality as well. If you go to the next slide. Great, so from a case study perspective, specifically for the city of Poughkeepsie, we have since about 2014 been able to secure over $10 million in municipal grants, including EFC projects, and even brought in private grant funding as well, $1.8 million in private grant funding for infrastructure projects. If you keep going to the data side, we were able to use the platform to help the city of Poughkeepsie centralize all of their joint water infrastructure data, all of the data that they had up by themselves and all the data that they jointly owned. And essentially the idea was that they knew that there was some issue with the efficiency of their water system, but they didn't know what was going on, and it was a problem that was plaguing them for several years. Within a couple of weeks of them actually ingesting all the data onto the platform, they had everything they need to just ask the system questions and identify the problem immediately. In fact, if you go to the next slide, this is a testimonial from the Commissioner of Finance, Dr. Brian Martinez. he talks about some stuff about, again, coordination, cooperation, collaboration, because it's true. It makes it a lot easier for everyone to work together when you have this information centralized in one place. But I think the part that maybe was probably most exciting to all of us when he said it is what Uncharted provided in a matter of minutes. We would have paid tens of thousands for a consulting engagement for the same effort. I think we all know when you pay a bunch of money to a consultant because you need something to be done, and then 3 years later, you don't have the report, or you can't find the report, or it feels like it's outdated, so you have to pay that money again, and it feels kind of ridiculous. That's what we're avoiding. You wouldn't have to do that. You'd be able to put all of that in that same place. And so that, again, is part of what you get when you work with Uncharted. And then if you go to the next slide, on the community engagement side, we were able to put over 200 students through the Uplift program in partnership with one nonprofit and the actual city school district. We also had an invention showcase, and we had a celebrity judge for the kids as well. And there were some really interesting inventions that, again, I think are fun to share, and that was featured in the school district's newsletter quite a few times. Some of the inventions are often things because kids just don't want to clean their room. Just gonna be honest, you're not gonna get, it's not always going to be a cure to something, but there are also some really cool things actually related to water in the community that we thought were very much visionary in their own way. Oh, and I guess really quickly, if you go back, the work that we did in the city of Poughkeepsie was actually highlighted on CBS News. So, proposal for the town of Amenia. You guys already know that you're awesome and that you're an environmental justice area, so we can go to the next slide. One important thing to note, why this is, again, such an important time, the EPA is actually upping its money for environmental justice areas. So there's even more that could be coming to the town of Amenia if we hit just at the right time. If you go to the next slide. And so specifically where we'd like to start, again, we believe in long-term partnerships, and we tend to be very holistic. You know, if you ask people in the city of Poughkeepsie, we jump in a lot of different places and help out in a lot of different ways. But ultimately, our vision, our goal is to help the town of Amenia improve its drinking water infrastructure and overall enhance the standard of living for all of its residents. If you go to the next slide. 3 core objectives, again, per how we work. There would be a financial objective, get you as much money as we possibly can. Technical objective, make sure that while this grant work is happening, that all the information that's getting pulled is being centralized in one place to help you with future projects and to help you with future grants. And community as well, again, so total side note, but when we came a little bit earlier and the front doors weren't open, and we had to look for the side doors, and so we saw a family in their karate gear. And I did karate, so we just started chatting. And these girls were awesome, and the dad was there, and they invited me to come next week to the karate, and we went through, and then I met the sensei, and then we started talking about things, and they literally were like, no, take off your boots. And I was like, I kind of have something to do. The supervisor's waiting for me. The point is, you guys have a really awesome community, because I think I'm joining your karate club here. So, and that really, it just happened. And those are the kinds of things we want to support. Those are the kinds of students and kids that we want to put in Uplift. And you'll find that we believe in a very much an authentic and natural way of just becoming part of the communities that we work with. Specifically from a grant services perspective, there's a lot of words on this slide, but ultimately there is a lot to do, and there's a lot to do very quickly. And the idea is that we would be doing all these things for you. So again, specifically, the areas of responsibility associated with this partnership, at least initially for the first year, would be related to all the grant work, writing, performing advocacy, filing services for the town, as it relates to everything you see here. I won't read that, but I'll let you go through it, and if you have any questions, of course, you can ask. And just so you know, we have already done the prep work, and we've identified over 7 grant sources for the town of Amenia that we'd be pushing for during this period of time. If you go to the next slide, we've already talked about the data platform as well. Again, helping the town of Amenia have this kind of Google for its water infrastructure, starting first and very specifically with just all of this information that goes into the grants. And you can go to the next slide. And on the community side, we'd be looking to partner with approximately 3 local nonprofits, if the karate group is one of them. I'm biased, team. And of course, the Uplift program. And there are a few opportunities that we do have coming up in terms of elevating the narrative of Amenia. One of them that I think would be particularly relevant is the bond buyer infrastructure. I'm one of the keynote speakers for that, not next week, but the week after. And it's actually something that was proposed by ORIC, which we know that you guys work with them as well. And so, again, we're always ready to amplify the amazing stories that are coming out of the municipalities that we work with. Now, the detail slide. So these would be the logistics. So again, we tend to sign master service agreements with the municipalities, and then the projects are statements of work. They're different SOWs. So this would be one SOW on the full MSA. This is the cost per quarter for the year, and includes everything that we've been talking about. I should also say that there's a reason why we do all of this research before we approach a municipality. We like to bat 1,000. We like to pretty much always have a win rate. So we wouldn't be approaching you if we didn't feel incredibly confident that we could get you these funds. And I believe that from our grant writers' actual kind of historical ROI, it usually works out that the cost of the grant services is approximately 2 to 3% of the total monies that we get for a municipality, just in case you're thinking about it from an ROI perspective as well. And that's everything. Thank you. Any questions?
What
Yes.
happens, let's say we do sign a contract to have a year of your services to go after specific grants for the specific projects that we need infrastructure-wise. What happens to all the data that you've collected and put on your platform? Does that platform become available to us thereafter because we've paid a percentage of that effort to put it in? It's ours?
Your data is always your data, first
Right,
and foremost,
but
but
is it
in terms of
going to
access to
stay-
the platform.
Yeah, right.
In terms of access to the platform, well, it would depend. If you wanted to continue on and maybe you said, hey, it all depends, right? So are you assuming a world where you did 1 year of grant services and then didn't do anything else?
Correct.
In that situation, I think we would do almost essentially what you would want us to do, right? So if you wanted to continue using the platform, we could probably come up with some sort of low maintenance fee, exactly.
Or does it become historically available? It's kind of static in time. And I just wondered if all that information was wonderfully centralized and available, you collected it, we paid for it, then if we don't continue on ad infinitum, where is the break point where we say, okay, this is our data, this is our information?
Yes.
How do we use it again?
So you would, one, always still have the existing data, like to you in the non-platform way, of course.
In other words, we export that information into
so you would
spreadsheets and
you
such.
could always have that, and you would always have that. And in addition, if you wanted to continue to have access to the platform, we would discuss if you just wanted to have access in this historical form and not add to it,
Right.
or if you wanted to add to it in other ways, and then we would figure out something that would make the most sense for Amenia.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
What is it that makes us eligible for this more specifically?
You're an environmental justice community. And so there's a map that, there's 2 maps, one that's been created on the state level and on the federal level, that's designated specific regions in New York State as environmental justice communities. And pretty much it's just based off of data that the federal and state governments have that suggests that you have an outsized need to improve certain things related to energy, water, air, and other things that you would think about from the perspective of sustainability. And so the federal government and the state government have designated the town of Amenia as an environmental justice community.
Is it solely just for water, or can it be other infrastructure projects?
For the environmental justice communities?
Yeah.
I believe it is other extra infrastructure projects. Yes, but
Say, for instance, sewer?
Yes, yes, but we've been told to be very focused on drinking water. But if, yes, but yes,
Yes, they can do wastewater too.
yes.
So your service agreement is $75,000 for the year that is ultimately about applying, it's getting the score higher on the IUP.
Which is going to be tough because we'd have to go back into the engineering reports and pull that up and then go into all the
The problem
applying.
with the engineering report is it's crap, and it doesn't even, it mentioned environmental justice, and that's the reason why it's the score it is. So you would be looking to, one, get it there, so there's 50% grant funding. I think the PER is 13 million, so half of that. And then would you also be doing the WIA application as well for the
Yes.
25% that is? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes. It would be essentially unlimited water grant services at the state and federal level.
Mike's like, you got to get it recorded, man. Like, let's.
Awesome. Really great questions, by the way. And just a part of that case study, the city of Poughkeepsie, they've been really excited what we've done with the platform, and we're looking at what we can do even more with them. So, hopefully you guys will be excited in what we can do in the first year. But to your question, this package that we've essentially created is for unlimited grant services for water infrastructure at the state and the federal level.
Yeah,
But it's all managed through the state, so it's actually the state level, right?
Yeah, EFC, because the federal comes through.
Yeah.
Yep,
EFC,
exactly.
So it's all through the EFC. and
Exactly.
ultimately,
Yes.
It's that block grant,
We would also go after, beyond the EFC, additional federal appropriations for Amenia as well.
for its drinking water.
Yeah, yes, that's our mandate.
So how would we expand that beyond that?
An additional statement of work.
Yeah, we could do it,
Yeah.
yes.
So
But I don't think
would
it needs-
would it cost more to expand it?
It would just depend, because we're looking at more just time, because our grantors, it's more about time, and so it may not cost more each year. So more this year, if we had to go to more grants, that would mean more people hours, but if you just want to kind of continue, it may not.
But a lot of the information that they're gathering could probably be used for wastewater too, especially the infrastructure.
And I guess I think it's okay to, well, no, this is on YouTube, so I can't share all the specifics of what we're doing with the city of Poughkeepsie.
The wastewater PER has a very detailed, the only reason our score is where it's at is because the district is informed. But the other question with you guys is are you also managing the secret part of this process as well for the water, since there is some replacement? There's building new infrastructure for the water. I don't know how deeply you got into
I'm sorry, the secret parts?
the environmental review. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is that also part of your, please?
So generally, the secret process is generally managed by your attorney. We will be supporting it with certain components that get put into the secret process, for instance, the report, resolution components that need to be done. But at the end of the day, it's typically managed by the attorney.
Well, I only say because
Your attorney or our attorney?
Our attorney. No, the town attorney.
I'm only asking because I know the WIA application requires that you have environmental review done, and that application is only once a year at the end of the summer. So,
Well, that's when you submit all of the components, but you can be working on those all throughout the year. You don't have to wait till the very end.
no,
In fact, it's recommended not to do that.
There's only once a year.
Yeah,
So, yeah.
just like the IUP has to be May,
Well,
June
on the
time period.
IUPs,
Yeah,
You can
yeah.
do revisions to the IUP throughout the year.
Correct,
projects on
but
the
the deadline drops in June, and then they deem which projects will be able to move forward at that point. Yes. Did that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I would say, again, like speaking in terms of deadlines, I think there is a tight period of time. I think you're kind of getting to that point as well. There are a few things related to the IUP that March 1st, I believe, is when we believe any much later would be difficult for additional federal appropriations, April 15th. And so, I think what's really also nice about the way we work at Uncharted, as you kind of see, is that we bring together a group of people who together we know just about everything that's going on to make sure that every municipality doesn't feel like they're being left in the dark on some things. And the experience level that we're bringing as well is what you would get. A lot of times it's just about being able to pick up the phone and ask a question. And we're very, very good at picking up the phone, especially Nick. It's weird. Like,
Yes,
just
he
yeah.
certainly is.
Yeah.
I can attest to that.
Any other questions?
So did we see the SOS, the statement of, sorry, whatever that is
SOW?
called? Yeah, can we see that? Because
Yes, we emailed it over, or we could pull it up now.
It's here, Vicky. It's in your
oh, it's in this packet.
So just for the audience, a little background on the environmental justice area. So basically in our town, everything north of 343
The one sheet piece of paper. The one sheet.
or 44
That's it?
past the stoplight, everything north of that has been zoned as a potential environmental justice area. And you can find that map on the state website. But that is the designation that makes us eligible for the additional funding that they're referring to.
You're saying, I thought I saw further back that we could use the ARPA money that they use.
Yes. The city of Poughkeepsie uses ARPA funds to pay for our services, and we actually have worked with James Nyko, who you're familiar with, and they actually built the full ARPA compliance program, and he was actually...
Yeah, James Nyko is, works for Capital Markets Advisors, who is our financial advisor.
Yeah.
And City of Poughkeepsie also uses them too.
Exactly. We're happy to stand here for a bit while you guys review that too, just in case any questions come out of that.
Who do you work primarily with to gather the information that you need?
Pretty much,
All of us.
yes. I mean, perhaps I don't know your specific role with the water infrastructure, but yes, we would be working with the supervisor and the designated people on her team and in the government to gather all the information, in addition to some things that we simply...
Yeah, Deanna, who plays a major role in that as a program manager, will also pull publicly available sources of data. So there's also a lot of data that's just publicly available about Amenia that we also centralize and fuse. So with the city of Poughkeepsie, we ingested over 100 sources of data,
Yes.
which was a mix of from like DPW, engineering, finance, and then publicly available.
And joint water.
And joint water. And then also, in addition to that, there were some data gaps that were important that Deanna actually went and collected on site. For example, Latin longitude coordinates to put on a map for their convenience.
And
You know, we are 6 separate hamlets, only one of which has a water system. You already know that when you're walking in.
Yes.
It doesn't matter. I mean, they know that there is a water district.
Can I just ask quickly, sorry, Vicki, were you going to ask?
I was just going to ask if you'd ever worked with a town as small as 4,000, residents.
No.
Is the city of Poughkeepsie, your typical account?
But I will
or-
say that one of the municipalities that we're currently engaging, how large is Ellenville? Oh, but, okay, how large
You're
are we?
working with Ellenville, right?
We know
Ellenville is small.
I don't know why I tried.
6,000-7,000. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
But I will say that, the size is one thing, but the need is another, and the process of getting the funds is the same, even if...
That's true. I'm just in an institutional capacity kind of thing. We have part-time people, we have, we're only open certain amounts of time, and I know with grant deadlines, it's time sensitive and that kind of thing. So institutionally, we probably don't have the same capacity as you might have with Poughkeepsie, for instance.
Yes.
And we're happy to pace whatever makes sense for Amenia. For us, our sweet spot is really municipalities with population like 4,000 to 40,000. We believe that kind of subsect is often overlooked when it comes to providing premium grant and tech services.
And also to your point, actually, I would say almost half of the partners that we were working with on the City of Poughkeepsie side were part-time individuals. So it's something that we are familiar with. A lot of our partners that we consistently work with are not formally employed by the municipality as a W-2. So that we are very familiar with.
And working around their schedules.
Exactly.
Right.
You mentioned that there were grants that would actually pay for your grant funding and for your grant.
Reimbursements through the EFC. I don't know if you want to share a bit more.
Could you be closer to the microphone so people can hear you?
Yeah, there are select opportunities to get reimbursements from the EFC, so we'd be able to walk Amenia through that process as those opportunities arise going through the grants.
Are you talking about grant administration, which is an allowable reimbursable expense, or are you talking about something in addition?
Not for administration, for the costs in pursuing the grant services.
So the cost of our services.
Yes.
Which is usually grant writing.
We had an engineering grant. I didn't know that they had a grant related to grant.
No, also for grants. And so, in fact, we have experience and success in doing. We have experience and success in doing that. And so, you know, the real win would be that everything that you're paying would actually be reimbursed, and this would be just a win-win-win.
How are you guys organized as a firm? Are you privately held?
Yes.
Are you sole proprietor?
No. We have investors. Our board, Magic Johnson is on our board, and he's very big on helping communities and municipalities develop. We have quite a few institutional investors. Disney's an investor. Elemental Accelerator's an investor. That's from Lorene Powell Jobs. A few more of our investors.
Yeah, we have a variety of VC funds, tech VC funds, family offices. Not sure if there are any sports fans, but several NBA players like Chris Paul.
Carmelo Anthony, Serge Ibaka, Kyrie Irving, but please don't judge us. Let's just say we're just saying Kyrie Irving. We don't.
Pretty much all of our investors are impact investors. They're all
exactly
pretty much motivated by environmental, social impact and supporting that regard.
The way we started, just to give you a little bit of background, so. I'm a dual citizen of Nigeria and the United States, and from a very early age, it didn't really make sense to me that if something existed, if a technology existed, how there could still be people who are dying because they didn't have it. And I went through a tough year, my senior year of high school, where I lost 3 members of my family from things that could have at least been delayed, if not totally avoided, if they had access to basic infrastructure. And so at that moment, without knowing much, knowing what we all knew when we were 18, I decided that I would dedicate my life to trying to solve that problem. And I spent quite a few number of years trying to understand the root of that problem and what was maybe one thing that could actually cut across and help. And so from creating things like energy generating soccer balls to where we are now, after interviewing hundreds of people and realizing that part of the reason why infrastructure is so expensive and it takes so long is because 50% of an average person's time is spent just tracking down something that there's a file for somewhere. When you look at it in the aggregate, we realize, wow, maybe we could solve the problem this way, or at least really put a dent in the problem this way. And then making it something that's as easy to use as like a Google was designed primarily because it doesn't make sense to say you have this great data tool if you need to go through 3 months of training to use it. That doesn't make sense for the actual government. And so we had this pilot during the pandemic. I believe that if you're going to do anything, you got to be the first one to take the medicine. And so I went to where I was born in the city of Poughkeepsie. We brought the technology, and it really made a massive difference. Such a big difference that now they want it for their entire full system of all their water infrastructure. And so from there, we said, let's see what we can do in the entire region. And we realized specifically because of the work that we've done on the federal level. I currently serve as a member of the Electricity Advisory Committee for the Department of Energy because of my past work over the last decade in this space. We realized that we had this really great opportunity to not only bring this tool, but help municipalities get what they really need, which is money. just period, point blank, like tech is great, but money is what the first thing that every municipality needs to build the infrastructure that their citizens need, and then we can kind of have this thing just be a partner and carry along. And so to that end, we've been fortunate to attract certain investors and certain partners. Ingram Micro is a massive technology company that really helps us as well if any of our municipalities are looking for advice or support on what infrastructure to build. But every single person in our community, every single person that works in our company, every single advisor, we are so incredibly aligned, not only from a cultural perspective, but from an impact and ethos perspective. That is, you will feel it the more you work with us, because we are so incredibly consistent about that.
I don't understand. Oh, okay. So on your statement of work, you say during the initial contract period, you'll provide the grant services in the form of grant loan application. Does that mean you're submitting it for us? All these processes and grant applications, you are going to actually submit them on our behalf?
We do we do everything.
Okay.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay, I wasn't sure if filing services meant, grant loan, or, okay, so that's good. And I don't, if we're laser focused on the water infrastructure and getting all of our important needs met in our water district, I don't really understand in a nutshell, maybe in a sentence, how Uplift is part of that and whether we're paying for that. And I mean, it's a wonderful program. I'm all for education and STEM curriculums, but I wonder how that fits directly into the grant application and our success getting safe drinking water for our residents.
So you're not paying for it. It's something in every municipality that we work with. It's something that we do because it's part of what makes us different from any other tech company. We believe that how can you come in and say that you're a tech company working with a municipality if you haven't actually worked with the kids? And maybe it's silly. I'm still, maybe we're holding on to some of those things, but my first inventions came when I was a kid, and it really changed my life. So it's just part of the way that we understand truly what you have to deal with, right? We're not coming at this from a silo.
Okay, and then the last thing I have, maybe, is this water district is composed of, in around number 300 households. This is perhaps a question more for our attorney. If we are specifically hiring a grant contractor to look at just the water infrastructure, does the water district then have to pay back the $75,000 investment that we put that year towards looking just at those funds? Does the entire town of Amenia pay that, or just the water district would have to absorb that cost?
If we're going to use the ARPA funds, according to the ARPA regulations, that you can transfer into a special district.
Transfer our ARPA funds into the water district to pay for services like grant consultation.
Yes.
And that does not have to be paid back by the residents in the water district. Okay. Thank you.
No, that's one of the regulations in ARPA.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, do you want to?
I'm not an attorney, so I don't want to speak as an attorney, but that is my understanding as well. Which we've done.
Successfully. The ARPA funds have been transferred, you got paid out of those funds, and that district did not have to pay it back.
Yes.
So the board will eventually make a resolution the board will eventually make a resolution to earmark that money to be transferred over at whatever rate you need to move it over at.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
I'm just curious, what other municipalities are you working with?
So right now, we're currently developing programs like this. There's ongoing and extended work with the City of Poughkeepsie. There's some interesting work with the Joint Water Board, which consists of the town of Poughkeepsie and the City of Poughkeepsie. In addition, Ellenville, town of New Paltz is a new partner that we're developing a program like this with as well. Hyde Park, but I think that's going to be more next year in terms of some things there. I am certain I am forgetting one, but in this area, that's what would be it.
Thank you.
No problem.
Based on where?
69 Market Street is where we're headquartered, but our team is 69 Market Street in Poughkeepsie, but our team is somewhat remote. It's very hard to get millennials to get back into an office after what happened, the pandemic. It just, including me, it's all of us. So.
Okay, does anyone else have any other questions? If you think of any other questions, make sure you have all their contact information. Just feel free to, to call them or email, and they'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Yeah, thank you so much. We really appreciate it, and thank you for digging into it.
It's my job.
No, it was really helpful, and we just appreciate the opportunity. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, make a motion to open the public hearing for the franchise renewal agreement.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Revelard?
Yes.
Are there any comments?
Sharon Kroger. Some time ago, before the epidemic, when this was under discussion, the whole question of the contract with the company was under discussion. I sent the board a memo very specifically requesting that you not sign off on that contract unless you were sure that the basic elementary cheapest contract for everybody in town who wanted it would include certain what I call necessary items. And in this complex society in which we live, necessary items include the news broadcasts. And I had specifically said that we should always insist that there be Channel 13, the public TV, and the 2 C-SPANs, and then basic news, which is at least CNN and NBC, and then the advocacy news, which is Fox on the one hand and MSNBC on the other. And I had requested, I don't know if you remember that, it was a long time ago, I had requested that be required by this town in order to sign off on the contract. And then I added one more thing, and that is the TCN, which was the Turner Classics, because this is a bare bones. It's not even an entertainment. It's just the basic news that a citizen needs to be able to check into if they're going to have to make civic decisions and political decisions. But Turner Classics had been given away to the company, which means they didn't have to pay for it. So at no point is there a real reason why they should be charging the public. And there are many families who can only afford the basic, cheapest contract, and that should include the Turner Classic, so they can at least have those movies. And I was hoping that this town would not sign off on that. And evidently, because of whatever technical glitch the Public Service Commission has found and caused you to have another hearing, I'm getting another bite of the apple here. I hope that you will not sign off unless these things are included.
Ian or Victoria, do you want to summarize why the PSC sent this back to us for
Roger is here if you'd like him to.
Okay.
Well, as you know,
Could you just introduce yourself?
Oh, certainly, I'm sorry. My name is Roger Connor, and I'm representing Altice tonight. And initially, when the board had a public hearing and also passed a resolution authorizing the supervisor to execute the franchise agreement, Altice then takes all of that information, puts it in an application form, and sends it off to the Public Service Commission, who will then examine all of that application and then certify the renewal of the franchise. And that certification is the kickoff date for when that renewal, that time period of the new franchise agreement begins. And in that process, it was found that they didn't have all the documents that were needed for the public hearing, the public notice of the public hearing and the affidavit. So that's what we're correcting tonight by doing the public hearing again. We'll have all of that paperwork corrected, and we'll be able to finish the application and send that back off to the Public Service Commission. And to answer your question, I'm sorry to report to you that programming and rates are not part of a franchise agreement negotiation, and the federal regulations prohibit that from being included into individual franchise agreements.
All set?
I think that when this contract was first negotiated, and they were every 8 years, if I remember correctly, that was one of the specifications that the town board made at the time, that it would be inclusive of the basics that are necessary for citizenship. And I think you need to look into this further. I need to correct myself. At the time that I made the first comments to you, these things were all included normally. And the change took place about a year ago. I received my notice in writing, all the specifics that are included in each kind of contract, the cheap contract, the more expensive contract, and then all the luxury contracts. And they changed it so that they left out some of those important news broadcasts. And that means that a person who's on a limited income would have to, in order to be properly knowledgeable, would have to pay for an expensive contract, which is not really moral, and it's just not good civics, it's not good citizenship, and I hope that this board will pursue this and talk to the Public Service Commission if indeed Roger is right. But I think that we were there first before these rules, some of these rules, and I think that this is not a brand new contract. This is an extension of earlier contracts, and I think we had it in there initially.
Make a motion to close the public hearing for franchise renewal agreement.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Remillard?
Yes.
I think we can go to other matters to do the resolutions related to the franchise agreement.
Yep. Can I just say real quick, Sharon, I sent you a document from Public Service Commission on the sort of franchise negotiation process for your review. I sent it to your email just now.
Okay, this says resolution number of 2021.
73.
Authorizing a third public hearing.
She put the old, you want to go to the next one?
So we don't
She
need
has
that
it.
one?
No, she,
Okay. So all
It's a
we need
copy-
is
it's a
the
copy of the
authorizing?
public hearing
Okay,
notice.
yeah, because we already did that.
that was from
Okay.
the last meeting.
71?
3.
Oh, 73, okay. Authorizing the town of Amenia to renew the cable franchise agreement with Cablevision Systems, Dutchess Corporation, to operate a cable system in the town of Amenia. Whereas the town of Amenia is a franchise authority in accordance with Title VI of the Communications Act of 1934 and is authorized to grant one or more exclusive cable television franchises pursuant to Article 11 of the New York State Public Service Law as amended, Title 16, Chapter 8, Parts 890.60 through 899 of the official compilation of rules, codes, and regulations of the state of New York as amended. Whereas the town executed a franchise agreement with Cablevision Systems Dutchess Corporation on February 26, 2009, which was thereafter confirmed and made effective by the New York State Public Service Commission on August 28, 2009 for a term of 10 years. Whereas said franchise agreement thereafter expired on August 28, 2019, whereas franchisee submitted a proposed franchise renewal agreement to continue operating a cable system within the town, whereas the town and franchisee have conducted extensive negotiations, have mutually agreed to the terms of the franchise renewal agreement, and whereas the town has determined that the franchisee has the requisite legal, technical, and financial capabilities to operate a cable system within the town, and that the franchisee's proposals for renewal of the franchise meets the cable-related needs of the community, whereas by Resolution Number 28 of 2020, by Resolution Number 61 of 2021, and by Resolution Number 69 of 2022, the Town Board held duly noticed public hearings on July 2nd, 2020, December 16, 2021, and on November 3rd, 2022, respectively, at regularly scheduled Town Board meetings at which the franchisee was available to answer questions, and all interested parties within the town had an opportunity to be heard and ask questions on the proposed franchise renewal agreement. Now therefore be it resolved, 1, the recitations set forth are incorporated in the resolution as it fully set forth and adopted herein. 2, the town board determines that it is in the best interest of the public to award a franchise renewal agreement to the franchisee. 3, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to enter into a franchise renewal agreement with Cablevision Systems Dutchess Corporation in substantially the same form as annexed hereto, and to execute any other documents necessary to effectuate the granting of the franchise renewal agreement on behalf of the town of Amenia. Is there a motion?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Remillard?
Yes.
Thank you.
It's a blast from the past on this roll call.
Yeah. I got it.
All right.
Okay, make a motion to open the public hearing for the 2023 preliminary budget.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Remillard?
Yes.
Okay, is there any comment on the budget?
Is there a copy of the budget present?
Yep. Can you give us one?
Just having a senior moment. Under revenues, just have a question.
Sure.
Can you review again this non-property tax distribution by county that we've budgeted $315,000? Is that the mortgage tax?
No, that's a sales tax.
That's all sales tax?
Yes, because
Wow.
what we've been getting in addition to the amount approved by the legislature, that whatever
give us a flat
additional
fee.
sale tax, they give us extra.
It's not
It's called the enhanced
Yeah, I
sales.
remember they changed that, and when we're pretty sure we're going to get $315,000.
Well,
or
I went
that's
by
a-
what we got last year.
Yeah. But that seems awfully, like a lot of money, but,
It's the same as 22, right?
Yeah.
that's what we are earning in 2022, but I don't
That's
know
what we budgeted.
historically if that's what we normally would get historically.
Where are we at on that revenue line?
Oh, it's just like the third one down.
Yeah, we don't have all the payments yet for this year.
We get paid quarterly on
Yeah.
that? Yeah. I think we talked about this during the budget meeting. I think we were at like
I know, I apologize.
80% or something with 3/4 of the payments. So
Yeah,
I
but,
think
yeah,
we
every
paced
year
it-
is a little different, right?
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause- yeah.
But I think we paced it out and we said if the quarterly payment this quarter was the same as the average for the last 3, we would end up ahead of 315.
Okay.
That was my recollection on the math we
Okay.
did on that one.
So the mortgage tax is actually the fourth from the bottom, the 200,000 that we've done.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate that.
Charlie, do you have a question?
Yeah, can I have just a quick comment? Well, maybe a couple. One, in looking at other towns, they generally will show these budgets for at least a year-to-date and an accrual for the current year, because you really can't tell
No, you have to have another sheet right next to it.
Yeah, well, that's
to really
not online. That's not public. The year-to-date
The
and the
operating,
accrual.
yeah, that's the operating statement.
Yeah, so, I mean, in looking
It's
at...
not online, it's available at the town clerk's office for anyone who wants it.
Okay, well, I'm making the recommendation that, the budget
You add a
actually
column.
show...
Add a column.
Add 2, you need a year-to-date and the accrual, because there's some things that will still need to be paid, and then you have the preliminary and the tentative budget.
Right.
Otherwise, it's difficult.
Guessing.
Regardless of that. So, I couldn't make out where possibly licenses for Office 365 are on here. I know the town has had an issue with being maxed out on that, and I didn't see any place where IT was. So I would ask that the board think about including a line item to purchase additional licenses. So that's one item.
So it is in here, Charlie.
It is in here.
It's Victoria.
What's the GL number?
Working on it. I think it's in facilities, is it?
It's the Conica and,
Is it all baked into that?
Yeah,
I thought that was
central-
just maybe a lease for a
No.
copying machine?
it's the, that's the Conica and
Central processing?
central processing, all the computer
So that
items are in there.
39 is
Yes.
includes everything?
Yes.
So that's the same, that's relatively the same as it was last year, and I
Mm-hmm.
know that we've maxed out on Office 365 licenses, so it seems that number should be a little higher then, to accommodate a new...
Well, there's still money in the line to accommodate more licenses this year.
Okay, but we haven't had more licenses, that's been a problem, right, Damien?
Yeah,
for
we're
the
3
year?
short at the moment.
Yeah, so I don't know if they come in groups of 50 or 75 or 25.
We don't need to set up a separate line for it. It goes.
No, you
comes out
don't.
of
I'm
that
just
line.
saying, please buy more licenses because we don't have enough for the committee members that we have.
Well, that's what we're in the process of getting.
Okay. Let's see, where was my other thing? I think that this grant organization is fantastic for the water district. That's clearly a focus of theirs. I didn't see where there was any line item for other grant writing. There's, number of block grants. There's so much money out there. It's not as if you have to engage somebody, but to have had it budgeted. So I don't know if that's here somewhere.
We have
but I could-
$3,000 budgeted for grants.
But that's clearly not enough.
Just so you know.
Yeah, that's clearly not enough. I mean, I'm sure that we could probably get a good, $400,000, $500,000 worth of grants, but it's going to take at least, a $15,000, $20,000 line item. You don't have to spend it if you don't find the grant writer to write it,
Well,
but,
this is a preliminary budget, so
Okay.
we can, if we need to add more to a line or take
Yeah.
some out of another line, we can still do that.
I'm making the note here. For the wastewater engineer, there's $62,000 there. The preliminary engineering report actually has that at $82,000. I know that will probably come from ARP money, but I just wanted to mention that.
No, it won't.
Is there a reason why we wouldn't pay? Well, it doesn't matter, I guess, as long as it's budgeted for it.
No, you don't have a district set up, so there's no place to put that money.
Okay, so then I suggest that number come up to at least 82,000 because I'm sure it's going to be more in line. I spoke with the engineer this afternoon, and she felt like that was a pretty firm number.
82?
82.
Oh,
yes.
because Leo's told me 62, that's why I put it in there.
Poor Leo and his math. Yeah. The chart that's included in the report is a little confusing. It has a $10,000 line item that looks like it might be double counting, but it's not. It's actually the preparation of
So actually, that's 82?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And one thing I just want to make a note outside the budget, because I don't know if some people at home, I don't know how many people watch this, but our budget actually had the general fund. This has been something the town, some people speak about, oh, it's gone crazy, this, that, and the other. It actually hasn't. The majority of our budget over the past 6 years, the increases have come from the fire department, and that fire district budget has specifically been from Amenia, where it is having to be expanded, my understanding, because I think they have their increase for this year is they're up 10% from last year, and last year they were up 25% from the previous year, and I think that's about a lot of equipment they need probably to deal with Silo Ridge. My understanding is that they are possibly getting a ladder truck, and that's going to be more cost. So I think as people look at this budget, they should understand that our general line items actually are increasing pretty much with inflation, and I think that's a good thing from the board, that it's not outrageous spending, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
Charlie, on that point,
guy.
I don't want to speak to the fire department budgets and all that. They're completely separate from our process, but thank you for saying that. I did a Facebook video at one point where I walked people through our town and highway budget for the last 6-7 years. And it's effectively been flat. I think what the big surprise to a lot of people is that we run this town for basically $1 million a year, and that is a very small amount of money for the amount of taxpayers we have in this town, as well as the assessed value of the town. This town runs very lean. It always has run very lean. We've never really been sort of profligate with funds, but I was very encouraged during this year's budget cycle to see some great ideas from the committees, some great advocacy from some of the department leads for a justified increase in some of their respective lines. And I am a firm believer that we should pay for things that we want and that we need. It's always funny sitting on the town board and getting yelled at for not having any parks in town, but not wanting to raise taxes at all. So just to put everybody at ease, the mill rate's actually coming down slightly in this. Did we calculate that, Victoria?
Yeah, so far.
So
We're
far.
not at the adopted. Yeah, it'll be coming down.
We're
It'll either
trending-
be coming down or flat.
Yeah.
We're basically trending towards either a slight reduction in the mill rate or, basically keep it on par with where we were for the last couple of years. And budget season is never easy. It's a lot of work, but
Yeah, and we'll be under the 2% tax cap.
Yeah, no, I think it's really great. Silo Ridge, this is a question I had because I wasn't quite sure where it was in the budget. It looked like the budget had $50,000 for CERT, which is contesting tax assessed values.
Yes.
Is that the line item that's being paid for to defend against Silo
Yes.
Ridges? Okay. There's been a comment that the CERT was actually more like, a couple of $100,000. Has it been in the 50? I guess last year was 30,000 that it was budgeted. Was it 50 this year?
Can I just clarify something? That cert line is for any certs that we may...
Yes, it's for defending against any
to-
assessed values, I assume. But is that the amount that we, as the town, has spent to defend this year? It'll be under the assessor.
It sounds right. Not 200,000, I don't think.
No, I think
No, I'm
we're
saying
we're
the
like
30.
87, I think.
87,000.
Yeah, okay, so that is the amount that we've spent to defend
Year to date.
Yeah.
year to date. Okay.
And again, that's all the certs that we've defended against.
Right, but I would imagine the majority of them that...
Yes,
that-
yeah, the majority are theirs.
Yeah, okay, great. And they're actually going through suing versus actually the CERT process, but we're using that fund to pay for that, right?
No, they're going through this, what do you mean CERT process?
Well, there's generally a normal, you would apply to the assessor to contest your values. You wouldn't actually file
Yes,
suit.
they went through to the grievance board and then filed suit
And
after
then filed
that.
suit?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Generally, you stop
Every
with the
year.
grievance board.
Yeah, they do that every year.
Yeah, great, thank you so much.
I just wanted to clarify, or at least maybe have you clarify, Damien, you said that we run this town on about $1 million. The appropriations this year, if I'm reading it correctly, is 2.383 million. 2.383 million. So now we do get $1 million almost in revenue from various building fees and sales tax and all of that. So the amount to be raised by taxes, according to this budget we're looking at today, the amount to be raised is 1.4 million. So I just wanted to be clear.
That's what I'm referring to. So the amount
that's
that we...
excluding highway. So that's just the general fund. Okay.
The amount that we raised from taxpayers, the amount that
is a little bit more. It's
more
1.5 million from you guys, in taxes.
1.19.
1.1.
Amount to be raised.
But that revenue comes from the county.
Okay, then we take up the...
Yeah, there's a $250,000 fund balance, so the amount to be raised this year,
on the general fund.
1.1. Yeah.
Right.
Or 1.2.
And, you know, historically, again, it's been around that $1 million level.
It has been significantly less that we've run this town on, but it is, you've been paying the same amount or less in mill taxes, as I recall, over time. So your price per thousand has not, is not increasing beyond 1 or 2% in the last few years.
Right, for 2022 is 1.94, 2021 was 2.46, so it was a dramatic drop.
So I have a comment concerning the budget. Rather than asking residents to pay another $500,000 a year to increase our income, you know, or provide more services to the community, I would recommend that we really hire, possibly look into hiring either a part-time or a full-time grant writer, right? There's tons of grants out there. And it seems like that we're not pursuing them as much as we can, and we know that we have a lot of projects coming forward.
Well, that's what we're looking at. I know Leo gave me a proposal for a company, and I'm looking at another company. Because the person we've been using for grants right now, he's closing out existing grants that we have. But, you know, he really doesn't have the time. So we're actually looking to, you know, add either a company or a grant writer for next year.
Sounds great then. Thank you.
Can make a motion to close the public hearing for the 2023 preliminary budget.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Revelard?
Yes.
Make a motion to return to regular meeting.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Revelard?
Yes.
Okay, is there any other public comment? No. Town clerk report?
Good evening. A few items to share this evening. Acknowledging receipt and posting of the 2023 preliminary budget number 3. We've received that from the supervisor. I wanted to share with everyone, Michelle was in today, so our senior trips are up and going. It's our final senior trip of the year. It's going to be held on Tuesday, December 13th. They're going to AquaTurf. It is going to be a holiday-themed event. She still
Christmas
has
party.
20 seats open and available, so if you are interested in attending, please send to Michelle ASAP. The cost is $47 plus the $3 cash tip for our driver. Those checks and tip are to be sent to Michelle Smoji at 149 Scott Drive, Dover Plains, New York, 12522. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to call her at area code 845-877-9430. And again, it's the final 2022 senior Christmas party being held at the AquaTurf this year. Since we're talking about holiday and our seniors getting out of town, I'd like to make sure everybody knows to stay in town. We are going to have our annual Parade of Lights and Christmas and holiday festivities. It's going to be Sunday, December 4th. All of the planning has officially begun. Fire department had their meeting last night, so we have our parade started. Our route is going to go from the firehouse up Main Street, and it's going to conclude here in the lower parking lot. And all of the exciting news is that all of the different committees and businesses are going to be working together, and we have an upcoming meeting. So the flyer will be available for our next town board meeting, but we will be sure to circulate and get them posted up and throughout town. So please save the date, Sunday, December 4th.
What time does it start?
That's all the true details are trying to be worked out, but I'm looking at a 3 o'clock start this year. I think starting a little later and pushing it closer together. So it'd be a 3 o'clock start, parade lineup 4:30 with the parade kicking off at 5. So the actual tree lighting will take effect, like just moments before 5. The supervisor will do her Citizen of the Year awards and announcements. We're looking to work together collaboratively with the different organizations. I know last year we did best decorating of the business in town. I think, there's beautiful houses and porches right here on Main Street. Maybe we can get some of the homeowners to want to partake and maybe come up with a theme and let them rock with that and judge the front porches and really try to get everyone here in Main Street to participate. So looking for some good stuff. So more news coming and emails will go out Monday or Tuesday. We're looking to have a meeting. Library is participating this year now that their construction is final. So really we're going to have a little bit more going on. Recreation and WCO, everybody's on board. So I'm excited.
Very good.
And that'll conclude the town clerk's report tonight.
Recreation Commission report?
No, she didn't send anything. Oh, okay.
I'm sure you'll find something to tell us, Paul.
So, how are we doing, everybody? Paul Winters, Amenia Recreation Commission Chairman. So, I want to thank Miss Victoria Perotti for joining us last Sunday down at the Trunk or Treat. We had a great time. We had probably, I think, 17 cars show up. Miss Perotti showed up as an angry Met fan. It was great. She had her sunglasses on, so I don't think a lot of them in the community knew who she was. I had a great time chasing the kids around in some kind of purple thing that I picked up at the store that I had no idea, but the kids seemed to enjoy it. They wanted to take photos with me, which is a first in my life, so that was kind of fun. So that was past Sunday. Like I said, we had probably about 17 cars. We had about 100 kids come through. Great fun thing for the community. We are going to try to play a football game, tag football or touch football on Thanksgiving at 9 o'clock down at the Beekman Field. That's organized by Scott Russo. So before the big meal there, why don't you guys come out and let's play a little bit of football like everybody used to do on Thanksgiving Day. I want to also report that I've heard back from the high school, and they have requested to be put on the agenda for November the 17th, and they're going to come down and present their plans from their Amenia Recreation, collaboration with Millerton for the Weebatuck Student Community Leadership Challenge. So they would like to come down and present their ideas that they've come up with. I have no idea what they're going to present. I went to them and I told them, I said, you guys got to come up with it, and then you come back and tell us what you're going to do. So we're all going to find out on November 17th
So that's
what
a
it is.
presentation on the 17th?
Yes, ma'am. So we'll all find out together what they have come up with.
Oh, I'll find out before that.
Mr. Knusel wouldn't give it up to me. I had a conversation with him this week, and he still wouldn't give it up. And I think that's about it, right, for right now. Oh, well, I guess I could follow up on the Parade of Lights and all that stuff. So the Amenia Rec is going to be coordinating with the multiple nonprofit organizations. The AWCO reached out to us this week, and they're very interested in everybody collaborating like we have in the past, and we just want to keep that going. Have the Parade of Lights, looking at trying to maybe get some little bit of community spirit going and getting people to come down and decorate stuff. Say start at like 2:30 or something and start decorating some trees or something. I'm going to work that out with the commission over the next couple of days. And I think that's it for now. I've been working on...
Can you, Paul, can you just tell us, we're about
Sounds like
to
they're gonna do it.
vote on this resolution for the landscape architect. Do you want to give the folks at
Yes,
home a little
so
background
that's
on
what
that?
I see there, right? I saw that on the agenda. We're still, the Amenia Recreation Commission still recommends Dodona. We believe, there was two good options here. We had Labella, who is currently doing Millerton Park. They are a larger organization. They would bring a lot of resources to the town. I believe they're also working on the town garage. So the town already has some experience with them. But our impression with the Dodona is they're really into this, right? They're excited. They want to come and do this. Their plan is really well thought out. I like the idea that they're going to tell us how to go out and apply for the grants or help us apply for the grants. I think it would be a great long-term relationship with the Dodona. So hopefully that's the way the board goes, but I know you guys have your own minds, so there's that.
I'd be happy to read that resolution right now.
74?
Yeah, all right, let's do it. Are you through? Resolution number 74 of 2022, resolution awarding contract to landscape architect to complete a master plan to support site improvements for Wassaic Park and Amenia Town Hall. Whereas the Town of Amenia Recreation Commission is seeking the services of a landscape architect to complete a master plan in support of various site improvements for Wassaic Park and the Amenia Town Hall property. And whereas such services are considered to be professional services and therefore not subject to the bidding requirements set forth in General Municipal Law, Section 103, or the Town of Amenia's procurement policy. And whereas the Town of Amenia Recreation Commission has interviewed 4 different firms and received 2 written proposals for landscape architect services, which are set forth below. First was from Labella Associates, proposal amount $13,500. The second was from Dodona Associates, landscape architects, for $14,500. Whereas the Recreation Commission has analyzed the proposals and determined based on their interviews and review of the proposals that Dodona Associates Landscape Architects is the lowest responsible bidder and recommends that Dodona Associates Landscape Architects LLC be awarded the contract for architectural landscaping services in the amount of $14,500. And now therefore be it resolved that the recitations above set forth are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. The Town Board and the Town of Amenia hereby awards the contract for the architectural landscape services to complete the master plan in support of site improvements for the Wassaic Park and Amenia Town Hall properties to Dodona Associates Landscape Architects LLC in an amount not to exceed $14,500. The Town Board of the Town of Amenia hereby authorizes and directs the payment for the architectural services to be paid from budget line number 71454.01 Intercommunity Rec CE in the amount of $3,000. Budget line number 71454.01.030 Intercommunity Rec CE trips in the amount of $5,500. Budget line number 71454.01.031 Intercommunity Rec CE transportation in the amount of $4,000, and budget line number 73104.01.097 Youth Program CE Amenia Farm League in the amount of $2,000 in accordance with the proposal annexed hereto. The Town Board of the Town of Amenia hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute a contract for such services after review by the attorney to the town in accordance with the annexed proposal. I'll make that motion.
I'll second, but I have a question. So, for their proposal, they say that the town hall, let's see, the majority of the master planning will be provided for the Wassaic Park property. The Wassaic Park property enhancement will be contingent on the moving of the town garage to a new location.
That is correct.
So did we make that decision for sure as a town board, or is that
Well,
just
it's
something?
been the plan, from what I understand from the town board, to move the town garage, correct?
I didn't understand that.
Yeah, but it's not going anywhere. I think what he's talking about is they want to use the parking there.
We want to use that area as parking.
I see, rather than the entire, so we will continue to be able to use the old town garage once
Right.
it's vacated?
Yes,
With
but we
the salt
need-
shed, with the,
So
all of the-
Wassaic Park has no parking, right? There's no place to park for that
No,
park.
I just want to make sure I'm reading this correctly, that it doesn't mean the entire operation has to be moved.
No, the entire
to the
operation doesn't have to be moved. I
to
mean,
Route
but that
22.
is originally part of that was park. When that
That
land,
was? I
yeah,
thought it was
that,
a
if you look on the Dutchess real estate map, it shows that parcel as one piece of property, and that was all part of the park when it was originally donated or given to the town. So at some point, some members of the town board decided to take and make that part what was park.
That's illegal. You can't actually change parkland
Well,
to
that's
something
the
else.
way it's laid out. If you look at the real estate map, that's what it
You
shows.
just can't. Well, the one parcel
So move
goes on
on.
either side of the
River.
Yeah,
river.
that which includes
So if
which
it was
includes the
donated
town
as a
garage.
park, it should have remained a park.
Which includes the town garage.
Okay.
So it would
All
be
right.
our hope that we would be able to increase that, which I have an idea of how we could get our parking done, which I'm going to go down and see the DEC about because they have a multi-use fishing area there. So I was going to go down and talk to the DEC and see if they would like to make that their official parking area, and we could possibly get some parking done and
So-
a little cross bridge over.
It is just, we're retaining these people for a master plan, right? So it's
Yeah,
not like they're
yeah,
going to
but-
go.
But you're investing $18,000, you want to, or whatever.
It's
14,000.
14,000.
14,000, then we want it to be contingent on real information, right?
for
We
sure.
don't want them going in a direction that in fact the town board says,
No, of
we weren't
course.
planning to move the entire garage.
Yeah. But as
Yeah.
far as like putting a plan to attract people to do anything down there without parking, the plan is irrelevant, right? So we are going to build a new highway garage. We can have an informed discussion about.
Oh, no,
the
I
best
agree
use
with
for that.
additional parking there.
Yeah.
Absolutely, but the infrastructure that we have
Well, I
available
would-
to the highway garage, I know that there's some infrastructure that still works.
Yeah, well, I've identified other areas along there that's not being used that could be turned into parking that
Well, that's the
belongs.
whole idea of them doing the plan to look at everything and give us options.
It'll help you guys move
I
along
mean,
in the
it's
town
not
garage
saying we
possibly.
have to move the highway out.
Congrats.
We haven't
Is that
voted on
we
it
haven't- we
yet.
haven't voted on it yet.
Well, it's very nice work.
Thank you.
Roll, please.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Fablelaro?
Yes.
Thank you all. Next week, in 2 weeks, we'll be back with the baseball fence.
Okay, we're at 75.
It's the workforce.
Yeah, affordable housing local law. Yes.
Happy to read it. You want me to do it? It's a local law X.
Right.
Resolution introducing local law X of the year 2022, amending workforce housing law and other relevant zoning code sections to preserve and promote affordable housing within the town of Amenia. Whereas the town board of the town of Amenia is considering the adoption of local law number X of the year 2022, which would amend the existing workforce housing law and other relevant zoning code sections to preserve and encourage affordable housing units within the town, promote the construction of moderate income housing units within the town, and to clarify the approval and administrative process within the workforce housing law. And whereas the town board has determined that the proposed action is a type 1 action pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, Part 617 NYCRR, commonly known as SECRA, and has completed Part 1 of the Environmental Assessment Form. And whereas the town board has determined that a proposed action is an action for which there are no other involved agencies and that the town board is therefore by default the lead agency for this action, now therefore be it resolved that 1, the recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as if fully set forth and adopted herein. 2, the town board hereby introduces for adoption local law number X of the year 2022 in the form annexed here 2. 3, the town board determines that the enactment of the aforementioned local law is a type 1 action pursuant to Article 8 of the Environmental Conservation Law, Part 617 NYCRR, commonly known as SECRA, and that the town board reserves its obligation to make a determination of significance until after the conclusion of the public hearing. 4, the town board hereby determines that there are no other involved agencies and that the town board is by default the lead agency for this action. 5, the town board hereby schedules a public hearing on the proposed adoption of local law X of the year 2022 to be held on December 1st, 2022, 7 o'clock p.m. at Amenia Town Hall, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, and the town clerk is hereby directed to post and publish as required by law in the Millerton Times at least 10 days before such hearing. 6, that the town board hereby authorizes and directs the town clerk to act as follows with respect to the proposed local law: to post and to publish or cause to be published a public notice in the official newspaper of the town of Amenia of said public hearing at least 10 days prior thereto. To serve a copy of this resolution, Part 1 of the environmental assessment form and the annexed proposed local law, and the public hearing notice to the municipal clerk of each abutting municipality not less than 10 days prior to said public hearings pursuant to Town Code Section 121-69C2. To refer a copy of the proposed local law, Part 1 of the environmental assessment form, this resolution, and the public hearing notice to the planning board of the town of Amenia for its advisory review and comment pursuant to Town Code Section 121-69. And to provide a copy of this resolution, Part 1 of the environmental assessment form, the proposed local law, and the public hearing notice to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development for their advisory review and comment in accordance with General Municipal Law, Section 231-I and Section 231-M, and in accordance with Town Code Section 121-69. I'll make that motion.
Second.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yep.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Revelard?
Yes.
Resolution number 76, authorizing letter of intent and setting public hearing on the intended use of community development block grant funds in fiscal year 2023. Whereas the town of Amenia is a participant in the Dutchess County Urban Consortium for the Community Development Block Grant Program for fiscal year 2023. Whereas Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development is soliciting applications for the 2023 Community Development Block Grant Program. Whereas the town of Amenia intends to make an application for a Community Development Block Grant pursuant to the Dutchess County Department of Planning and Development's Community Development Block Grant Program for fiscal year 2023. Whereas the town is required to submit a letter of intent to the county on or before November 18th, 2022 to determine if the intended project satisfy the eligibility requirements for the grant. Whereas the town of Amenia is also required to hold a public hearing to discuss the town's intended use of the Community Development Block Grant funds prior to and in furtherance of making an application for said funds. Now therefore be it resolved as the recitation set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as it fully set forth and adopted herein. Be it further resolved that the town board is authorized to draft and submit a letter of intent to the county on or before November 18, 2022. Be it further resolved that the town board hereby schedules a public hearing to be held at the Town Hall, Town of Amenia, 4988 Route 22, Amenia, New York, 12501, on the 17th day of November 2022 at 7 p.m. At such time, all parties and citizens shall have an opportunity to be heard as to the grant proposal for the Community Development Block Grant funds being applied for by the town of Amenia for fiscal year 2023, I think. And be it further resolved, the town clerk is hereby directed to publish and post a notice of public hearing in the form annexed hereto at least 5 days prior to the scheduled public hearing and post same on the town's website and signboard maintained by the town clerk. I make that motion.
Second.
With that correction, yeah.
With the correction.
With the correction.
2023.
Supervisor Perotti?
Yes.
Councilpersons Doyle?
Yes.
Gutierrez?
Yes.
Revelard?
Yes.
I have a question about our next resolution here. So does, Vicki, I don't know, do you want to give background on the origins?
We all were
purpose
here. I think were you at the last meeting?
I was at the last one, I was not at the one prior to that.
Okay, I think it was our last meeting, we had comments from the public, right? So we,
Last meeting was the budget meeting.
sorry,
Yeah, sorry.
excluding the budget special meeting. Our public meeting, our regular meeting had a number of people comment, which we wanted to have comments. We had opened and kept open the public comment period because we had so many comments at the last one. People hadn't had a lot of time to read through it. So we continued it on, and they had more comments, and we closed that public hearing. There will be additional public hearings, as I understand, as required, or as we've been recommended to hold. And they wanted to form a committee to address some of the factual information that needed to be updated. We weren't positive some of the statistics were still true, and some of the features that have occurred in the last 15 years weren't included, such as the extension of the rail trail. Those are my recollections. But there were more comments than that, and I know they took a lot of...
1 second, Charlie.
Yeah,
so I'm just trying to understand if this is related to the proposed changes that we got from AKRF.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously,
Yep.
the public comment that happened last time was in response to that. But
Right.
the formation of this committee, we're not proposing to hold up the changes that were recommended by AKRF until the work of this committee has begun or is done. Or
I didn't even think we were going to create a committee, so this was a surprise to me. I
Okay.
don't know how this came about and
Okay.
what it's intended to address.
Well, in our comprehensive plan, it says that it should be reviewed every 10 years, and that hasn't happened.
That's every town, right,
Well-
in New York State. It's recommended that every 10 years.
Well, it
you
was
should
actually
address
part
it.
of our comprehensive plan that said that. And from the public comment that several people made, they pointed out that, we hadn't updated our comprehensive plan. So basically, this committee would do a review of the whole plan and not hold up anything to do with affordable housing. I mean, whatever recommendations AKRF made in, relation to the zoning law, which we just introduced tonight, but one of the emails that we received from AKRF, I believe it was the initial one, said that their recommendation was that whatever changes we were making in the zoning law for affordable housing should be consistent with our comprehensive plan. So they went through the whole comprehensive plan to see what was related to affordable housing, and they made some recommendations. Now, the only recommendations that they were concerning themselves with were the ones that actually apply to the affordable housing zoning laws that we are looking to add to our zoning. But this committee would be looking at everything else outside of that.
Okay, that makes sense to me. So the recommendations we received as part of that paid engagement with AKRF with regard to our comprehensive plan, are we proposing to not take action on those and not make any changes until this committee has had a chance to do some of its work, or are we
We had a
going to?
public hearing, so those comments that do address that, I think they were writing all of those comments down. AKRF was going to produce yet another version, right? Or, yeah, please clarify. Yeah, good.
So, actually, the last public hearing was not closed, so the public hearing is still open.
No, it's
No, we did
closed.
close
You
it.
did close it after the, okay, so.
Yes.
At the two public hearings, the consensus from a number of community members was that there are elements of the comprehensive plan that could use some updating, that are either outdated or wrong, in collaboration with the recommendations that AKRF has made. Much of the AKRF stuff is statistics. So Several community members recommended that they form a committee that would be very concise and would go through the plan and provide comments of things that could be updated that would wrap into the AKRF process. And AKRF has said that that would not take them outside of their scope of work or their budget that they've already put together. So that committee would be made up of several members. The town board decided that they would do that. They would ask volunteers to join that, and that committee could possibly wrap up their work by the end of the year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Nina Peak was there, Cheryl was there at both of those committee meetings. And so it wasn't as if it would be this long, drawn-out process that would stop the trajectory and the timeline of the current.
Once you open it up, you open it up to...
Yeah, I'd be surprised if anything happened that fast, and I mean, we'd have to then go back and have additional public hearings, and
You're still going to have.
We're still going to have to, if we,
we do, but with the scope of the changes proposed by AKRF, we've already presented that draft of the change, the comprehensive plan. I'm really just trying to understand, like, order of operations here, and if...
A big point of it was that if you're opening up the comp plan to make these changes that support affordable housing, which is a lot of statistical updates, then there are things there that are now outdated, and that should be, you know, somebody should go
why
through that
not
and do
give
that.
the committee
Yes.
proper time to do that, like over the course of next year, implement the changes recommended for the housing?
Because the housing from our attorney as well as from AKRF is that the comp plan elements should be updated to support the local law changes that are being made as well.
Right, which is the memo that we got from AKRF with the recommended changes to the comp plan to support the workforce housing zoning changes. That's the work that they did, right?
Yes.
But I think what I'm hearing is that there's a committee who wants to go and look at the larger comp plan, spend a lot of time, make a lot of changes, which is great.
No, not a lot of time, not a lot of changes.
Everything always takes a lot of time. I promise you,
not with me driving, it doesn't.
I mean, unless
we have a destination and a plan to get there.
Unless it's a thoroughly undemocratic process, then yeah, of course, it'll go really fast. But the work of a committee that's likely going to be made up of people who may not agree on every aspect of what changes need to be made, or like, that's a deliberative body. That committee should do the proper work that committee should do, and they should be given the appropriate amount of time. That's all. If anybody at this table thinks that we can create a new committee, have them do a bunch of review of the comp plan and have it be done by the end of the year, then, you know, jump in and correct me.
not the end of this year. The end of next year, maybe.
What I remember from the meetings is the
AKRF
consensus.
said it was fine to do it on a two-track basis.
Yeah, that's what I'm.
Right, that's what I came
did
away
watch the
with.
meeting, so I know what the
And they're
conversation was.
the
but-
professionals, so I think if they see that this is possible to do on a two-track basis, then, you know.
It clearly can be done on a two-track basis, and the statistics that they were incorporating into the comp plan will be attached to the seeker filing, so that can be done, and then this committee could have a year. I think that the board was clear that they did not want to spend a lot of money on a massive comp plan review, that it should be, you know, a finite update. That was my understanding from the last meeting.
Well, the board hasn't taken any action or voted on it. I mean, that's what we're doing tonight.
Right, exactly. Well, that's the conversation.
And the committee, you know, is thankfully powered by volunteers, and that doesn't necessarily cost us money. Obviously, there's legal, you know, fees and advertising fees to open it back up again when it's done. But I was, the parallel nature of implementing the recommended changes by AKRF, sort of in parallel with anything that this committee might be doing. That's what I was trying to understand, because it didn't seem feasible or doable.
I didn't really intend to speak to this, but because of the way in which you're asking the questions, I think we should just simply say the state law requires it.
It does. I'm not suggesting we don't do this by any means. What I'm suggesting is that we don't hold up the recommended changes that AKRF put forth in their memo, so that we don't have to hold up the zoning changes that we've made for our affordable housing. So that's the only thing that I'm suggesting.
But if we are keeping the comprehensive plan consistent with the zoning changes, then we're going to have to make the comprehensive plan changes that AKRF is recommending related to affordable housing, which means we will have to have more public hearings.
I'm a little confused at this point as far as the scope, and I think this is what Damien's trying to narrow down, is what is the scope of this committee? Is this committee to look at a general overhaul of the comp plan, or is this committee designed to do a speed, like a narrowly tailored review of the comp plan?
Well, I think
for
as
the local law? So
Sharon
that's-
indicated, we have a legal obligation to review our comp plan every decade.
But it does not mean that we have to wait until the committee is finished reviewing the whole comp plan in order to do what changes we need to make in the comprehensive plan related to the zoning laws and affordable housing. We can do both.
Yeah, that's exactly what I would hate for the creation and convening of this committee and their work and all. I would hate for that to hold up us making the changes that we've worked so hard on.
To my knowledge, we can do them
in parallel.
We can do them in parallel.
There is an executive session that will go into the specific legalities of this to the board.
Okay.
So.
Great. That's today?
Yes, do you want to?
Can we table this then, maybe?
We can
until we've
table
had that?
this, yeah, we can table this to the 17th,
Okay.
the resolution to create the committee. Okay. We can do that. Is there any town board comments?
I have a few. I want to underscore Charlie's recommendation, as I have in the past, that our budgets in the future, if at all possible, include a column with the current year-to-date numbers. And I know that changes, and it's perhaps a little hard to drop in, but I think that would be a lot easier for the public to understand. Yeah, we're budgeting $315,000 for tax revenue, sales tax revenue, because we're received $285,000. I mean, there's something of reality that can help us understand that information. The other thing is Heather Holohan Guarneri's musical theater program will be held on Saturday from 10 to noon instead of noon to 2, so there's a little time change to accommodate some scheduling. So 10 to noon on Saturday in the Town Hall Auditorium. Veterans Day ceremony led by VFW Post 5444 will be on Friday, November 11th at 11 a.m. at the former M&T Bank. That will, on the very next day, or that weekend, I believe it's Saturday, they're going to host an informal, a formal opening of Bank of Millbrook there at the former M&T Bank. So it'll be on Saturday, and they did, George Whalen did say I could announce that at our VFW ceremony on Friday. So I just want to alert the public that on that Friday, November 11th, we'll be honoring veterans at 11 a.m. in our typical ceremony, but the following day we will also be encouraged to attend a soft opening of Bank of Millbrook. I don't remember the time, but I'll continue. I'll announce it at the Veterans Day ceremony for sure. Status of the striping of the town hall parking lot was a question that keeps coming to mind as I pull in and use the painted lines instead of the real striping. Is there an update on that? You did provide them with the specifications or the request to go ahead and stripe that, or, I mean, we have been practicing and everybody seems to have no trouble with it. The
There's been.
Highway
so we
supervisor
came
is
up-
signed
Yep,
off?
she
Yeah.
went through it. Everybody,
Yep.
I think, has gone through it. They mapped it out. It's being used. There hasn't been any direction yet from the town board saying go. If the town board
Oh,
says
well,
go, then it's.
what do we
a go.
need to do to say go? We have to finalize how we want those
If everyone's
spaces
okay with that,
delineated?
then we can give them the go-ahead, and they'll stripe it. I don't know if they
I
want to
didn't know
stripe
we
it
were
right now.
waiting.
We didn't know we
We
were
had no
supposed to be
idea
waiting.
we were waiting for anything.
I think the last I recall is that Leo had some ideas, and I had some ideas about how we would delineate, which is required, 11 spaces for the Stone Leaf business to occupy. Is that where we're at? That's just from memory. Does anybody else remember any outstanding issue? I mean, the striping works.
Well, there
as
is,
it's-
yeah.
My
and-
recollection is there was a plan
Yeah,
that
they
was
met with
presented, but they
Megan and
wanted to have it
they've got
mapped.
the plan all lined out.
Yeah, they reviewed it with Megan and it got okayed. So I thought we were done. That's,
Well, how are we delineating the 11 spaces?
I
Painted on or a sign?
don't
Or both?
remember.
Okay.
I don't remember.
So if it's snowing, then we probably should have a sign, like a sign that says reserved, as you would go
I think
to a
we only need a
business.
sign. But,
You don't think we need signs?
I think we only need signs.
Okay, great, yeah.
But
So
it's-
is there an actual plan where the signs are on it and the designated spots? Has the board seen one and approved it? Because I don't
thought Stoneleaf
recall
had some
anything being
signs or
approved by the town
something.
board.
Stoneleaf perhaps had a sign that they were, or somebody said consistent with their other signage. Maybe they have other signs that designate handicap parking or something. We just use the same.
Could you follow up on
Yeah, I
that?
can
and
follow up
send-
with them, and what we'll do is
Just
we'll
let
take-
the board know, because it
Yeah.
sounds like we're in limbo right now.
Yeah, I'll ask them for a finalized plan of all the
Yeah.
designations of what they have based on, there were some concerns about the maneuverability with the spots that we had. That's why it was mapped out the way, that's why they.
But
basically
nobody's
did it.
complained since, right? I mean, everybody's getting in and out
No
just
one-
fine.
No one's told me, but
Right,
that doesn't necessarily mean that no one complained either, so. But what I can do is get a final map with the designations in it, and I'll present it to the board.
Yeah, and a description of how they're going to designate it, yeah.
Sure.
Okay. That's all of my comments.
Any
I
other-
would say that it would be nice to have an hourly rate to understand the $75,000 cost of the consultants that we heard from tonight, the Uncharted versus Leo's part-time consultant who was going to charge a flat fee of $32,000. So it's hard to compare apples to apples. And I would also say I would not sign an agreement until I knew what it would cost us for all of the data that they amass. And then they have their special platform. I would need to know what it would cost us at least to have historical access to that data in their platform.
On that point, I'd ask for an actual demo of the platform. I'm looking at their website right now.
Yeah, we may not know how to use it. I mean,
It doesn't look, it looks like a lot of asset management, and I don't think that's where the value is for these folks. I think that if they are familiar with the grant programs, that what I would say is I would speak to somebody at Poughkeepsie. I'd get a reference. I mean, have you heard from anybody that?
Yeah, I spoke to the finance commissioner, Dr. Martinez, and he just said that, that how helpful they have been to the city of Poughkeepsie and working on all the grants and the, like pulling everything all together. Of course, they're a much bigger place and they have more than one water district than we do.
Yep.
But how they took all the information and put it all in one place so that they can manage it so much better.
I had
So,
two
I mean, he
thoughts.
just spoke very highly of them.
I had two thoughts on that too, and one is, how does it fit into our budget? And two, it seems like they're not really handling towns with our size,
No.
or water district our size.
They
But
what?
they're not handling towns this size.
Well, they're working with Ellenville, that isn't a big town.
Right, they're proposing a plan for Ellenville.
I think we'd be their first 4,000 resident client.
Yeah,
And they
yeah.
mentioned New Paltz
Yeah.
too.
To answer your budget question, what the supervisor said earlier is that we would earmark some of the ARP money that we got, which we can transfer to a special district, and then these folks would work for the water district.
Okay.
To do grant writing and grant searching for the water district specifically, and then we would have to
not
find.
just,
Oh, Ellenville's really 4,332, so it is a small, very
yeah, Ellenville is small.
modest town.
What was I going to?
So I would call Ellenville and say, you know, you guys probably don't have full-time employees, you know,
Well, I think they were
running
just
around.
pitching. They were just pitching them, right? They hadn't engaged.
That's what they said.
Yeah.
I think so.
But look, if we got a good reference on their grant raising abilities, and that's what we want them for. then
Oh,
that's great.
excellent. But they, yeah, I mean, I had, until they reached out to me, I had no idea that Amenia fit in that category. There's something in the infrastructure bill that has criteria that, you know, that certain municipalities fit that criteria, and apparently we do. But I had no idea.
Well, we just applied for that using disadvantaged disadvantaged
It's not
communities.
disadvantaged.
And the justice, environmental justice. We did apply for a grant, and we certainly downloaded all the maps and made sure that we were qualified. And it is true, that grant, because we're an environmental justice and disadvantaged community, it went to the, you know, there's a specific amount of those grant funds that went specifically to those communities. So we do have an unusual
advantage
situation. But I would say if we're talking about $75,000 worth of services for just the water infrastructure, that
Just the water?
That's what you narrowed
I
their
know, it's
scope
just the
to
water, but we're talking millions of dollars that we need in the water district.
Yeah,
including
but
the
I
new
would
water
go to an
tower.
RFP and look, you know, directly. These people came to you rather than us say, okay, here's a request for proposals. Who else is out there? You know, these people shopped us rather than us shopping them.
They shopped us because we fit that category.
Of course, they see an advantage. I mean, it's a one-time opportunity for us. You know, we have ARP, our American Rescue Fund money, and we're a environmental justice and a disadvantaged community. So there is
And we
a
have
lot of
millions of
options.
dollars in needs in our water district.
Yep.
Were you going to say something?
I thought Vicky asked a good question with regards to if we bring the service on, they upload, they create the platform, centralize your data, apply for grants. That might be a year or two. What happens after that and what the maintenance is?
Oh, that's us. That's us.
So-
They want us to stay on. They
Well,
have our data. It's all in there.
So the maintenance, they
can-
were not clear on that, and I think that
But
might
they
be
can
something the
just
board
give
want to
us the
clarify.
data. We don't have to use their platform. I mean, if they gather all this data, it's our data.
It's always our data. It's our data
I mean,
from
well, they're
start to
going to give it
finish.
to us.
Correct. She'd mentioned about some sort of a maintenance plan where you could have access, use their platform, and
Yep.
have the accessibility to that in one location and have it kind of continue on.
Right.
They didn't have a price on that, but that might be something the board may want to consider.
I would agree. I just would want to know at the end of the day, if it's a significant investment of their time and effort and we've paid for it, then we would want some kind of historical, at least, use of that data.
Yeah,
in
again,
that
I'm
format.
just looking at the website, but I don't really understand the value proposition of using the platform at all. So if they can just write grants, then we don't need to worry about that.
Why would they even, they're going to spend a lot of time downloading our stuff into their portal, and
Yeah.
then we are kind of their customer. And then you talk about, like, you know, you want to get them every year. I don't think we can afford them every year at $75,000, but
I think we're saying the same thing of different sides of the coin. What I'm saying is, regardless of what they upload into their platform or what they want to do, it doesn't look like we need this. It's just, again, I could.
right,
we need a
okay.
demo,
So I
but
don't know what that
they've
portal
got a
is. I
map.
just know that if you invest a whole lot of information, putting in a lot of information into fields, into, you know, accessible
Yeah.
platform, and then they go away with their platform, you now are kind of hostage. They
Yeah.
have all that stuff so accessible, and you're like, oh God, I have to go enter all this stuff again into a Excel spreadsheet or something else where it's all now accessible again.
Okay. Was there anything else?
Are there any other town board comments?
I have a couple. Are
Okay,
you
go
done,
ahead.
Vic? So just inspired by the creation of a new committee, I'm curious, before we get to another reorg with no new committee guidelines, but how can we make progress on updating our committee guidelines? I had sent what I thought was a relatively well put together, comprehensive, something that we reviewed with Dawn Marie and Vicky. Can we invest a little effort in making those guidelines a little stronger? I mean, we as well, the three of us on the board here, we dealt with an issue with a committee member 2 or 3 years back or something, and that identified a real gap in our committee guidelines. At minimum, we should close that gap. It's been a while since we've dealt with that. So,
Sure.
Could we get that done before reorg? Could we see a draft?
I think you had a sample of.
I did. I sent it off already, and we talked about the parts that were relevant and the parts that may not be relevant.
Who talked about?
Dawn, Vicky, and I got together on a Saturday
Okay,
or
but you
something.
didn't, all those parts you talked about and what the results of that.
Was just to send it to Ian for his thoughts and to draft a version for us to discuss as a group, as the board.
But you never sent it to him?
I did.
You sent it to Ian?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know you sent it to Ian.
Glenham, Massachusetts?
Yes, that's right.
Example. So that is a Massachusetts town. It's about 14, 15 pages. It seems overkill and also kind of unrelated in many ways. I agree, it looks like a silver-plated, and I did call a few places I did call Glenham, I guess, and said, how is that working out for you? Because it seemed like a lot of details, but I found it basically, way overkill for our volunteers to, there's 5 or 6 guidelines that have worked for us for a while. You provide minutes, you do,
But none of that stuff is really none of it's codified, there's no onboarding doc for a committee member. So the document we have is actually
No,
attached.
I'd say
onboarding is a very
I can send the draft to the
big.
entire board, because now we have new.
No,
members.
I just-
You have it
I'm
from
doing it right
2020, the
now.
one that
Yeah.
Vicki last updated?
So,
Yeah, but what parts of that did you want to incorporate into ours? The whole thing?
no, not the whole thing. I thought that, look, if we're going to talk about it, we could talk about it. It is about 10 pages. It starts out with an acknowledgement that I, as a new volunteer, as a new committee member, have read this guidebook and have signed it, and it puts the name of the board and the committee and all that fun stuff. There are a couple of things in there that review some of the other documents the town has, like the ethics document that you're expected to abide by as a representative of the town. There's a bit on there about your oath of office and your term of office. There's a bit in there about conflict of interest statute. There's the bit on how you resign, what it means to speak on behalf of a committee. It's great. It's really good. Then it goes through the different positions that each committee needs to have, a chair, vice chair, secretary, etc. It then talks about meetings. It gives a definition of what is permissible, how remote participation is allowed, what open meetings law is. It gives a reference to that. For so many of our committee members that don't know, it's second nature to us because we've done it for so long, but it's a great, primer. Part of the reason it's long, Vicki, is because it does a lot of explaining for people who are not, maybe, or are new to this probably.
I think
it's
a
helpful.
welcoming letter or something from the supervisor to say, here's technically how, it's definitely missing. There is a missing link. Somebody gets appointed and then nobody follows up and says, now you need a town email account and now you need to only use the town email account for town business. There's a lot of missing information. Here's where you submit your minutes. Here's where, just a basic how-to.
I send that email to every new member.
Really?
Yeah.
Yes, he does.
Well, Nancy had no clue.
With a guide that I made myself. But,
Nancy who?
Nancy Schaefer.
Does the board want
she hasn't gotten her email yet.
She hasn't gotten her email yet.
Because we're out of licenses.
So we don't tell her until she gets
an
email? You did
They've
tell
had
her.
email
She emailed me
communications.
the day that Nancy was appointed.
Okay.
I responded that same day, saying, welcome aboard, Nancy, I'll work on this.
Okay. Some people
And I'm
are
working-
very confused because they don't understand how they're supposed to interact without an email, a
Right.
town email.
Yeah,
So
it
they're
makes
not
sense.
sure how to
We're getting off
proceed.
topic here a little bit, but we're out of email licenses, as Charlie pointed out. We need 3 more, and that's the holdup. But I will say specifically that, we had dealt with something where it was, I don't know how to characterize this in a appropriate way, but we had a behavioral issue with a particular volunteer. And we did not have the mechanism in our town code to be able to remove that person from the situation. So at minimum, that is like something that I'd like to see incorporated into
Doesn't the town have the authority to remove anyone at will? They serve at the
Not for some of the-
behest of the town.
I don't think for some of the boards, that's not the case.
So an appointed person.
We're
So an
talking about
appointed
committees,
person-
not boards right
Yeah,
now.
we're
Well,
talking
they
about
could-
committees, not
Yeah.
boards.
I mean, there's a guideline for committees here that
Yeah.
I believe was passed by a resolution.
Yep.
It is thin, I agree, Damien. But what I can recommend a couple things. Does the board want to maybe try to create a document, or as opposed to me drafting one, or getting samples of them? Or, I mean, I'm not quite sure what the board wants me to do with that. I mean, I can get samples, I can draft, I can put something
Well, we
together.
have a sample.
Yeah,
I don't
you know
like
what?
the Glenham. It's like 12 pages. Can we agree that 12, 15 pages isn't necessary
No,
for a
what-
committee member?
What specifically? I'd rather you tell me what you object to in here. But
I
like a
think
lot of
you
the
can't tell a committee member that they can't say anything to the press about what they're doing. Charlie is a good case in point. He had a grant, he needs to do community outreach. His job is to talk to people about the status of an upcoming wastewater thing. You can't sanction every single word.
That's not what this says. This says
Okay,
that
read
an individual board member has a right to speak publicly as a private citizen, but should not purport to represent the committee or exercise the authority of the committee, except when specifically authorized by a majority vote of the body to do so. I don't think that there's anything controversial there.
I think that's really
If you have a committee,
difficult.
if you have one person on the committee who's out there in the press speaking on behalf of that committee, but then you have 5 other people who have not taken an action to authorize the sentiment being expressed in
We
that,
meet once a month, and we're
it's-
going to sanitize and say, this press release is okay, and don't veer off, don't answer any questions, because we haven't authorized you to speak, except as a private citizen, you can do whatever you want. But Charlie, as chair of the wastewater and the water district, needs to be able to speak freely as the chair.
This doesn't
I mean,
prevent him from doing that, Vicki. This protects the other members of the committee who may be volunteering their time being a member of a committee.
It sounds
where,
like a gag
excuse me, can I
rule.
finish my
Yeah,
statement, please?
go ahead.
So they may be spending their time, their effort on this committee, passionate, and they care about the item. They just don't agree on a certain point with the chair. And maybe a majority of the people on that committee don't agree on a certain point with the chair. And so for the protection of the committee on whole and all of the members of the committee, it is the most democratic thing to have that chair be empowered by a consensus vote. This isn't like...
The chair is within the committee. The committee can say, you know what, Charlie's doing a horrible job, and I want to take the reins from them, and I'll be the chair, and then I'll say what I need to say and make sure it's appropriate to the rest of the committee. I just don't think it's workable. We're a town of 4,000. We have a few committee members, and to put a lot of formal constraints like the town of Glenham has added into this instructor, we barely get them emails. Now we have to have them appoint, come in and have an oath of office. We have all of these complicated things. We'd like to just get minutes. I'd love to get minutes once a month.
That is another great example, Vicki. I would
Minutes once a month.
I would also like to
That would be
suggest
incredible.
that, if we're going to do remote meetings, that we record them all, right? and put them up on the internet. I think that's a great idea as well. Minutes or anything we can do to
We could
further
list
transparency.
a long list of things that they must do. And all I would want from them is that they met open meetings law, they wrote up some minutes, and they submitted to the town board and relevant agencies.
Okay,
You know,
well, I
that
tell you
would
what,
be awfully nice.
To put this to bed, I will take this example.
Not Glenham, please, not a Massachusetts town.
I'm
Can we look at Millerton? Can we look at Dover, who have functioning committees? Why do we have to go to Glenham and find the gold-plated standard for a town in
really good.
Massachusetts?
I did a lot of research already. I found, you're welcome to find another example if you like.
I'll
I'm
go
happy.
to Millerton. I'll find it for next week.
But I will take this and I will draft it. I will excise the parts that are specific to Massachusetts state law. I'll just put a note, see Ian, for any reference to anything that is specific to our state law, like open meetings law. And then we can pass it around and talk about it as a group. And we don't have to adopt it, but I'm willing to do the work. And it's a starting place, which is better than us not doing anything for 2 years, 3 years since we last had that issue.
Did you look at any New York State towns?
Yes, I did.
And which other New York State town was like your second favorite?
Kingston had a very good one as well.
Okay.
But again, what I like,
This is a city of 4,000.
what I like
40,000.
seems to be the opposite of what you want. I enjoy
So
the
we're not gonna agree.
comprehensive nature of it. I enjoyed it. Was
I think each board member can.
They can. Everybody can propose.
Can put,
Choose what
you
they
know,
want.
can recommend what they feel should be the guidelines.
I liked the kind of
And then we'll
civic-
take all the information and then we'll boil it down
there you
to
go.
what we want.
I liked the sort of civic lesson that was incorporated as part of this. It was a real great primer on, what the function is of the committee, what your role is. So that's why I liked it, because the majority of the people that we deal with, it's their first time volunteering on a board like this. They're not familiar. And so I thought it was educational, helpful, and comprehensive.
Could I say a word?
Sure, go ahead. Honorary town board member.
Go ahead, Sharon.
This is very earnest and difficult, and I see that. It's possible that because the committees are non-comparable, it's not just the states are non-comparable, but the cities, and the cities are different. Large places like Kingston are different. Your closest model might be Red Hook, because there they do things very conscientiously and everybody's very well trained and motivated, and it might be easier to look it up. But I think this is a very difficult discussion, and there are committees where what Vicki is saying is perfectly adequate, and there are other high-powered situations where the remedies you're worrying about might be very relevant. So I don't think you can argue it out and just come out in the same in a good place. You have to realize it's a very difficult discussion that you're having.
100%, Sharon. And listen, there's 1,000 laws on the books and rules and regulations that are not abided by on a day-to-day basis by a lot of, that's the nature of having large rule books and large code books and whatever. The point of having something that's comprehensive is to protect the town. And in the event we do find ourselves in a situation where we do need to take action, maybe it's not that we, but the remedy is there for us to be able to do that. So that's why I would enjoy a little more depth than a little less. But
And I want to just entertain that because Brad's new to the table.
Yeah.
Back in 2020, when the three of us sat in my office and we met and we discussed and we circulated emails back and forth. Just so those that are watching, this group did meet and come to a consensus regarding membership appointments, administrative guidelines. So there are parts of this that are already formulated, and Councilwoman Doyle actually went ahead and she did some grammar changes. And then, so, they did agree and they have this kind of almost done. I think some of the new items, and I don't mean to call you out, Tamiana, but in the sense that they're new, are because as a board, you guys are faced with some new issues with maybe some of the new boards that are in existence, the members that are on them. So we had an issue several years ago, which then stimulated this discussion, and we came up with a great start of a plan, and now there's more items coming on that is now stimulating the additional conversations and the field to a need to elaborate on some of the points. So, I mean,
When was the town last?
time we updated this?
Yeah.
Well, God, I've been here 16 years, right?
It hasn't
It's always been the same committee guidelines. We've followed them the entire time that
Okay.
we've been here.
Okay.
So
Sorry,
back in
so we never
2020,
codified
we
that.
we never did. So I mean, for membership,
Controversial at all.
it's not
Codified?
controversial. We have
So
it.
I've read this part, the speaking in for a committee statement, and it pretty much parallels any board or committee members.
You get your microphone in there, please.
We can't hear you.
Sorry about that. So I'm reading the speaking for a committee
Can you
phase
just read
here.
it or something so that we
It's
know?
the same thing I read.
Same thing he
Oh.
read. I'm just looking at it here because he sent it to me. And it seems like it's something that would parallel any board or committee member responsibility for speaking in the public. So I don't see anything threatening about it.
Oh, I don't say it's threatening, I just think it's awkward if you only meet once a month to have a press release that's made sure that everybody gets to vote on the wording. And then if, let's say he's being interviewed by somebody, can he speak freely as the chair? Does he now have to take off his hat and say speaking as a personal person? I don't understand how that works.
What it says here is that they have to announce whether they are or not.
Okay, let's, I didn't want to be here all night.
Why don't we just look at, look
Yeah.
at
In its final
everything,
format.
decide what we like, what we don't
Sounds
like,
great.
and then
We'll vote on it. That sounds fine.
we'll
We left
eventually
off with
vote on it.
conflict of interest, speaking or writing on behalf of the committee. These are areas where we left off. Term limits, resignations, chair and secretary duties, and remote participation, and public meetings versus public hearings, for them to understand that. So those, this is where we left off.
Yeah. We already agreed to all these things the last time, so now,
We voted on them? I don't,
well, we agreed in that the three of us met, and then
Nobody
you
voted.
drafted this document.
I don't think we voted on it, but
No, we
it's
didn't.
very,
Board
at
did it,
least
but
we
it's-
have,
No,
Vicki,
you had-
this literally is on your Dove Meadow Farm stationery. I mean,
I don't have Dove Meadow Farm
When you send it,
stationery.
it comes out Dove Meadow.
Yeah.
It does on the bottom.
it's at
It
the
still
bottom.
does?
Yes.
All my town emails come out?
Some of the things that you do in your documents, they do.
Huh.
If you print it out, the new page comes in.
Okay,
We just gotta
I have
delete
no
it.
further comment.
So
I'm so
somebody needs
sorry.
to
You
fix
need
that.
to, you need to.
Okay,
Brad,
using
do you have
whatever template
anything
you're
to
using.
add?
okay, going forward, we'll just look at the information we have, and everybody can decide what they
I would
feel is
just like
appropriate and what
the
isn't.
opportunity to see all the information, so maybe we can even talk about it at some point.
Yeah.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to make a
Yeah.
packet, a trapper keeper for everybody.
Yay!
Okay.
I'll pick a purple one.
I think we're done with committees now.
Thank you.
Move to what? Somebody make a motion to open executive session? Somebody want to make that
Enter
motion?
into-
That's not me.
Why not you?
I make a motion to move to executive session for comprehensive plan legal issues, and the town clerk is excused.
Second.
Coming back or no?
No,
No.
And supervisor's taking the minutes?
yes.
Sorry, I don't mean to call you out, but you do such a great job. And it is 9:18 PM. And you're inviting, I'm assuming, the attorney?
And with the town attorney.
Not the original resolution.
we
Because
vote?
they're,
didn't vote.
Yes.
We need to
Supervisor
vote.
Brody,
Yes.
Thank you.
Councilpersons Doyle, Gutierrez, and
Yes.
Millard.
Yes.
So you'll see that